Happy Wednesday, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our show. My name is Julia Weinstein. I am here with my absolutely amazing business partner, Hunter F. Burns.
Thank you, Julia Weinstein. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We have something very exciting, but I have a question for you first before we begin.
Okay, what's the question?
Now, what was your favorite VHS when you were a kid?
Okay, so I'm a sucker for sob stories. So one of my favorites was, I think it's between Bambi and The Fox and the Hound.
That explains a lot about your character. That explains a lot about who you are as a person. Do you want to know what my favorite VHS was when I was a kid?
What was your favorite VHS?
So my parents forgot to lock up Psycho, and they mixed it in with your comedies and your Care Bear boxes. So when I was about 4 or 5, I snuck out Psycho, and my parents went to sleep early, and I snuck into the VHS player one night, and now I'm the man I am now.
That explains so much about your character.
Well, unfortunately, I think you're right. But the reason we're talking about this today is because there's a recent debate coming out. Maybe you've heard about this, about what was the last VHS to ever be produced. And this is kind of a funny debate because it's between the Disney movie Cars and a David Cronenberg movie called To Each His Own.
Oh my goodness. It's just so funny what the world debates over.
Well, when it comes down to it, like when you're looking at the serial numbers and you're trying to figure this out, it's either between a David Cronenberg movie, which, like skulls coming out of ears and things, and Cars with Owen Wilson. So it's having people saying, wow.
Wow. Wow.
So I guess that's going to be our challenge for our listeners this week. What do you think was the last VHS ever produced, and what was a VHS that when you were a kid makes you say, wow?
I gotta say, it's Cars. It's gotta be Cars.
No way. They produced them for the Disney movie club, but that was that they produced those way in the past, in preparation. So I'm betting with Cronenberg because if there was anything that would come off the presses last, it had to be the Cronenberg film.
Okay, well, we'll make sure to contact the press on our pool, and maybe that'll help them come to a conclusion.
We'll hire a PI, but back to the wow factor today. We have someone amazing here. Her name is Trey Cartwright. She teaches at DU. She's taught at Antioch, and she taught at my alma mater, the very prestigious Top 30 when I went there school, Colorado Film School. Her name is Trey Cartwright. Trey, say hello.
Hello. Hey, how do we drop from top 25 to top 30? I'm sad to hear that.
I think we dropped 5 points when I enrolled.
No, we graduated, Hunter, please. The mission was sad. They took away 5 of our positions.
That's when we dropped down to a top 40.
Oh my. And I'm over here just viewing the ratings and wondering what the frick is happening. Is it really Hunter? We shall find out.
Yeah, maybe I bring the wow factor, but we're here trying to talk about Trey. So Trey, you are a person who you are ingrained in Colorado film. You breathe, live, and love Colorado film, and you not only make movies, you make things happen. So why don't you give us your own resume, since you're the impressive one with a nice long list, and I can't break anything down in less than 100 words. You were my professor once, so you know that.
Yes, and it was always enjoyable to listen to you go. I grew up in Fort Collins, ran screaming, went to Tisch in New York. Did some bunch of stuff in New York, did a bunch of stuff in Chicago, and then finally it was like, oh my gosh, why am I putting off the move to LA? So I moved to LA, and ultimately what I was there was a development executive and content creator. So that means I read scripts and books for like HBO and the production company that I worked for. We made the first reboot of Lost in Space. and Black Dog, and like Respect. Like Black Dog had an amazing soundtrack, and it was polished. Very few people know this. It was polished by Tom Stoppard, who's Shakespeare in Love and Pulitzer Prize winning and whatever. And he took some money and he said thank you very much, and he walked away, and we made a movie about truckers.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was an action movie.
I really love that.
Yeah, it was very fun. I learned a lot on that. So I worked at the studio level. New Line, Paramount, Universal, But Fox was like my home studio. And when online entertainment became a thing, that was it. Like I was all in because I was like, this is the future. So I hopped over to do some morphing, which didn't work. By the look on your face, I will tell you, massively multiplayer online role-playing game company. And I was the liaison. I was teaching Hollywood screenwriters how to write for an engine that learned from the players. Very cool job, but the tech bubble burst. Worked for Leonardo Dicaprio. He was doing an online short film festival. Technology just wasn't there. This was back when it took like 20 minutes to download, a 2-minute short. So that went away. Produced some independent movies. Was optioned a whole bunch of times as a screenwriter, always had representation, so always feeling like I'm in the game. And then when LA crashed and burned for multiple reasons back in 2008 and 9, most people think of the writer's strike, that was really, sort of the death knell for a lot of things, but that writer's strike is what gave us TV, as it is now. So I ended up doing what a lot of people did at that time. I went and I got an MFA, went back to grad school. Turns out, love teaching. If I can't be writing, I want to be teaching. So, so I've worked for almost every film department in Colorado, a couple in Wyoming, for goodness sakes.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Hunter. And ended up for 5 years at the Colorado Film School. And then mostly now at this point, when I teach at universities, I teach at graduate programs. So the MA at DU, the MFA at Western, the MFA at Antioch. So I get to have all the fun. And occasionally I produce something still. Like when I'm feeling, I don't know, bored.
When you're feeling fussy in your blussy-ussies?
Yes, that would be correct.
That's one heck of a resume. Did you ever feel like you like did it? Like I've made it.
I think that all filmmakers, all creative people in general, get to have that feeling every now and again. You hit a target, you hit a goal, and it feels great. Maybe you do the festival circuit, or maybe you just see something that you did that you're just really proud of. Maybe you get like a great meeting where you're like, holy crap, man, I can't believe I was just in a room with these people. Like, this is for reals now. And then, of course, there's always like a cliff right after that. Mm-hmm. So then you fall back down and you remember that rent is still due, and you still have to put in the, you're still in the churn.
Oh,
but
gosh.
it's those moments that I think that keeps filmmakers and creatives in general going, because it's that kinetic energy that says that you're getting somewhere, you're moving forward.
Right.
And then the goal is just to try to reduce the space between those moments so that they're not quite so far away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So no, I never, so the bottom line is I got to do lots of really, really cool things, but now did I ever think that I had like made it? Not even remotely.
Yeah.
No way. And that's crazy, because a lot of people will say the same thing no matter what level they get to.
Yeah.
We're pretty harsh on ourselves, creatives.
We are. It's so true. But I like how you said it's like making goals, and then when you set that goal, it's like, yes, but you got to keep going. Like, it's not.
We have no choice.
Yeah. In order to make it, you gotta do 20 million things at once.
Well, I heard it kind of compared to drug addiction.
That would be correct.
Yeah, where we're just really trying to chase that next high every single time.
Actually,
I was listening to there's a documentary about the Rolling Stones. I don't know, I watch a lot of docs. This was one of them, and that's what Charlie Watts was talking about. He's the bassist, and he was like, this is the dangers, because being on a stage in front of 50,000 people, like, what could possibly pump your adrenals more than that? And then you go back to real life and you're shattered. You don't know. You don't have the biological makeup to go back to the real world. So he himself tried to put the focus on making sure that he had a real world, and then every now and again he went on a world tour. But it was only to raise the money so that he could go back and have his real life. Most people don't want that. They want the opposite. They want the Madison Square Garden stage all the time.
No. I mean, that makes sense. That makes so much sense, though, because, like, I'm not a monotonous person. I can't do the same thing over and over again. I like getting new things all the time. And I'm sure you have the same thing with, like, students. Like, you get new students, like, all the time, even though it's the same material.
Oh,
so.
yeah, for sure. And then I changed the material based on the students,
right,
all the time.
That's so cool.
Also, ADHD, like, this is a good business to be in when you have a little ADHD.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, speaking of ADHD, because I also have that, you taught me a lot about what makes a writer a writer. So a couple of the maybe a little few tips that we could disperse today that might be helpful for some writers out here in Colorado who might need some.
What makes a writer?
Yeah, what makes a writer right? Other than drug addiction.
That's already been disproven. So turns out we don't have to suffer in order to be great artists. So we get to retire that. We also don't have to be broke to be great artists. That's been retired as well. I don't know. What did you get out of it? What's the number one thing that you remember all these years later?
Action sequences can't just be punching people. They have to have emotions behind them. As much,
you gotta really feel it when you hammer.
It's like a One Piece episode where they're just sitting in someone's emotions for like 3 minutes. That's how you write it.
I think you taught me something that not every writing professor really gets down to. And you really engaged in what makes a setup between a hero and a villain. So when we were talking, it was always about why this character came to this conclusion and why this character came to this conclusion. It wasn't always about, well, this one had good conservative morals and he wore his overalls and he woke up early and he made sure the farm's chores were done. And this one slept in late and that's why he's the bad guy. It was really about like what was the circumstances that caused them to be that way. Even if it was just like a wizard and a vampire get a fight. Which, if anyone's read my writing, that's exactly what I'm writing all the day.
Yeah,
I hear you.
Very much so.
I think that was Will Hicks though.
You don't sell yourself short. You were one of the best professors at CFS for a reason.
We had a great staff at that point. Like the faculty when I was there was unbelievably great.
Top 30 for a reason, baby.
Top 25.
Top 25. Okay, when you were there, it was cementably top 25.
When I left, that's when it dropped.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay. There it is.
There we
That's
go.
the reason. That is the reason.
Well, back to the point. Come on,
Yes.
give us some good writing tips.
Juicy writing tips.
Some juicy writing tips.
Let's see it.
I think it comes down to so something that writers naturally have going for them is the understanding that they have to invest in themselves over the long haul. Yeah. So there's this concept of perseverance. Writing takes as long as it takes, and you have to create the space for it. You just have to learn how to have the patience to get to where you're going eventually. I do feel like when you're below the line, there's like hurry up and execute kind of mentality, and sometimes you have to because that's just the circumstances of the shoot. But writers get the opportunity to embrace this concept called development, which I don't really feel like a lot of Colorado filmmakers really grok. They don't really say, oh my gosh, the one thing I really have going for me is time. So I'm going to polish and polish and polish and polish whatever it is that I'm working on so that when we finally do get to the set, we're not wasting anybody's time to be there. So I think writers naturally fall into that camp that they will always invest in themselves. They'll do classes and they'll, build writers groups so that they always have people that they, because it takes a community, to always have people to be working with and to be accountable to. I think that they just lost the last piece. You'll edit that little bump out, right? Because
Sure.
The ADD just shot off in a different direction.
Oh yeah, no, you're
It's
good.
completely
You're
squirreled
good.
now.
I'll do a quick transition when you say the next thing.
Hold on,
okay?
I'll look
So
at,
we'll do
I'll
on
do
one
that really
screen.
inspiring look where I'm like, wow, my teacher's really doing
That's awesome.
We're gonna have an amazing bloopers reel. Okay, so you can go ahead and start here, and it'll be a smooth transition.
Oh my God, you actually did that for me. That's
I got you.
awesome.
I got you,
That's
girl.
fantastic.
We love you, Trey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so they invest in classes, they invest in pitching, which is now something that you don't have to necessarily go to Hollywood in order to do. There's all of these avenues that are now available to writers that decrease the landscape. In filmmaking, we're always talking about telescoping time, taking out the boring stuff, right? So now we can take out the landmass between us and the industry. So we do the research, we treat it like a business, and not everybody really does that, I don't think.
No.
So we invest in ourselves, we research, how best to get our stuff to marketplace. We get therapy, which I think is crucial, and a lot of people don't do that. And kind of not even kidding about that point. it's amazing because it's telescoping time, right? So I always tell my students, it's like, you'll get there on your own eventually. But if you invite other people into your process, like you're going to jump like 5 or 6 drafts ahead. Therapy can like drop some other drafts out of it because there's all these things that we do that like block ourselves from being successful. And, you know, they say time heals, whatever. I would rather just pay somebody, fix that so that I can go be successful faster, please. And I do feel like writers get there faster.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a valid point. Like, my mom grew up, I grew up with a real estate agent as a mother, and she'd take me around everywhere to ask for money.
I love how you phrase that. It wasn't my mother was a real estate agent. It was that I had a real estate agent
as a mother, yes. And I learned from the very beginning how important professionalism is in everything you do. And I like that you brought up therapy and how that can really affect how you work with people. Like Hunter and I know very well our own problems. And when you work with someone close like that on a set, especially in intimate projects like creative film, you really learn about a person, and you have to be able to like come to a compromise and learn to work with one another. So, yeah.
Well, you know, Julie, to be honest, I think Trey got it. We all wish that everyone on set would just get therapy.
I don't hire somebody unless they've been in therapy for at least 3 years.
Wait, you're for real?
You can't
Are you
ask
kidding?
that.
In Colorado? Yes, also HIPAA rules. Deeply inappropriate.
Oh my gosh.
But you can tell.
That would be amazing.
You can tell.
Because there's therapy speak, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So just in the interview, you drop some therapy pieces and see if they respond.
There you go. So
There's your hint.
This is something to do
As
with
your reference,
childhood.
leave your psychologist.
Have a set psychologist.
Yeah, I saw my therapist the other day. How about yours? You see her often?
Love it. So you're finding the workarounds.
Yeah, loopholes. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. We actually just had an intimacy coordinator on set, and they are a trauma therapist named Amanda Edwards. And what some of the stories she told me off screen, no names. All that juicy stuff might come out in my memoir later. But some of the stories that she told me like validated that thought exactly. Like everyone should get therapy before they're allowed to be actors.
So
allowed
true.
to be.
allowed.
There should be a license.
No, that's so true though. I went to Babcock Studios. Sorry if I say that wrong. And Todd is so good at being like, okay, this is a safe place. You know, you don't have to say anything you don't want to because we work through scenes together and work together like throughout a scene. It is like a counseling session, honestly, because you're like, okay, well, you have to feel the emotion in the scene, and you can't like try to find something that you're comfortable with because it might not work.
Right.
And so as an actor, I completely understand what you're talking about. You can get places that are dangerous. So
What other writing advice would you give to someone who is in Colorado and they have all little time in their hands and they just need that last little spark of inspiration so they don't just sit on their couch watching Midsummer Murders until 2 a.m.?
I think that there's an entire internet that's built to provide tools, and then it's really up to the person to decide whether or not they're going to spark themselves. I was just having this conversation with some friends of mine where they're talking about their kids going back to school post-pandemic, sequestering, and it's really tough for them. And like the motivation has drained out of them. So the big conversation is, well, how do you make somebody be motivated? And the answer is I don't know. The nice thing in the film world, I can say, is that you're there because you want to be. Film school is unbelievably hard work. Being in the film industry is so demoralizing and so frustrating, and you only get those Madison Square bursts on occasion, and it can feel further and further between. I don't know how people stay self-motivated. I know how people quit, and the way they quit is they just stop doing anything. So maybe that's the goal. Just keep doing it and trust the process and know that at some point there will be results. But otherwise, no, man, you're on your own. Good luck.
Well, I don't feel on my own because, like any good teacher, you just filled my tank up a little bit and you gave me that little spark, even without admitting you did. So don't put yourself out. However, I want you to pump yourself up because we are in a special little spot called
Game Time.
That's right, Julia. It's game time.
Yes.
So, Trey, since you're my favorite teacher from CFS.
Thank you. I was waiting for that because you were like, oh, you were a good one amongst many. Oh, man.
Well, there's many great ones, but
see, that was the Madison Square moment. Like,
yeah?
One of my students says I was the best at the school for them.
Well, you were definitely the toughest, but you're definitely the best.
Was I the toughest? God, I don't feel like I
Of
was tough
all
at
those teddy bears,
it.
come on, you're the one who you're the one who had the nice sharp criticism that poked that poked the holes that promoted growth.
You're like Phoebe. You tell the truth even if it's scary.
Who's Phoebe?
From Friends.
Oh, okay. I never watched it. So, did I just lose the first trivia round?
Actually, no, but here's your first question.
All right.
This game is called Bad Teacher. So these are all movies that involve a teacher in one way or another.
Okay.
And it's all trivia that I think you'll enjoy because you're a Hollywood historian in one way or another. Robin Williams did not show up to set on the first day of Dead Poets Society. This led to the set being shut down, the sets being burned, and the director being fired. Why didn't Williams show up that day? Was it A, the movie was being directed by Jeff Canoe, who directed Revenge of the Nerds? Was it B, the movie was being shot in Atlanta in close proximity to Stone Mountain? C, the movie's budget didn't have enough money for the trailer he wanted? Or D, the movie had too much Ethan Hawke in the script?
There's always too much Ethan Hawke, as far as I'm concerned. Although he does quite nice in Moon Knight. He seems to be having his 50-year-old resurgence as I'm going to embrace being villains now.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't. I've never heard this story, Hunter. So if I had to make a guess, I would like to think it was the first one because it would have undermined the tone and the veracity and the sincerity of that movie.
Well, like any good teacher, you snuff out the BS. It is, in fact, Jeff Canoe.
It's Jeff Canoe's fault.
Jeff Canoe.
A ton of money was lost. Did he ever work again?
He did. He directs
Revenge of the Nerds, too.
He actually directed a lot of National Lampoon movies.
And what a great place to be. I mean, he made a ton of money, and good on him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Definitely, if you look at his IMDb, he's definitely not what Dead Poets Society would look like. It's definitely more college movies kind of vibe.
There would have been more rubber chickens, I think.
Yes.
If he had done
Mm-hmm.
Certainly more latex, if you catch my drift.
I just have a feeling my literature teacher wouldn't have showed me the movie if he was there. So
Decidedly.
Indeed not.
So I'm glad it turned out how it did.
Certainly not. Oh, Captain, my Captain. All right. Kelly Furman Craig, best known for writing and directing The Edge of 17, submitted the teacher student dramedy under a different name in 2012. What was the name of that original script? Was it A, Frenzies, B, Best Friends, C, Besties, or D, My Best Friend is My English Teacher?
None of those are good titles. I just don't know if I care what the original title is. Somebody in marketing said we cannot market a movie called any of these things, so we're just going to burn them all down. We're going to start somewhere else.
So which one is the least worst, I guess, is the question.
What's the least worst?
Well, this might be a good time to remind you while you're thinking that you did great on that first question, but you must get 2 out of 3, because if you fail this quiz, we are going to have to kick you off the podcast, and all these nice little writing tips are going to sound much worse coming from my lips because I left my notebook that I keep nailed to the wall from your class at home in front of my writing desk and not right here. So I need you to succeed.
All right.
Please.
For the sake of Hunter, I'm going to say A. I have no idea.
So close. It was actually C, Besties.
Oh my
Really?
goodness.
I know. It's such a terrible name. But then
horrible.
but it's such a great movie now that we'll forgive it. So question C. In the movie Loose, where the amazing actress Octavia Spencer suspects that former child soldier turned star student Luce must be damaged because of an essay he wrote promoting violence, why might Octavia think this? There's no spoilers here. Is it A, Kelvin Harris Jr., the actor who played Luce, actually wrote a paper on Frantz Fanon as part of his research for the role? B, Octavia Spencer then graded it, and then the paper was used on screen, so it's the real paper.
It's really elaborate, man.
C, every time in the movie where Luce, the student, closes his locker, a gunshot sounds.
But that's non-diegetic sound, so Olivia wouldn't have been able to hear it, so we can take that one out. Keep going.
Ooh, maybe. Consider it.
Uh-oh. Oh, gosh.
Is it D, loose means light in Italian. A loose is also a type of pikefish, and pikefish are notorious for being voracious and for having large pointed teeth. Or is it E, All of the above.
I'm going to go with E, all of the above.
Yeah.
You would be correct. It
I
is
would
E,
agree.
all of the above. These are all
Do you wanna know
little
why?
facts. Why?
Because whenever you take a test, 50% of the questions where it's all of the above, that is the correct answer. So I had a 50-50 chance of being right.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because when I didn't study, I would just always choose all of the above. Like every time.
And you got 50% of them
I would
right.
at least get a 50%.
least.
Yeah.
You know what? That's C's make degrees, and great teaching advice gets you through it all. So thank
That's
you.
right.
So
This
true.
is how you cheat on your multiple choice
Learning
questions.
from the teacher herself.
By the way, everybody needs to see Luce, Luce, because it's just an astonishingly great movie.
Finally,
check it out.
one of our guests has said it. It's
Yeah.
the best movie of 2019. It's my
I'd
underground
have
gem.
to go back and see if like Cars was in 2019, but like
I think Cars 3 might have been close enough to that.
yeah.
Let's not mention that. Let's talk about Loose, but we'll
right.
do that more after the break. We have Trey Cartwright, Antioch DU, Western CFS. She's been there. She's made all the students stars. And guess what? We have her right here on Support Local Film. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Mike Rose from Grand Design, and I had a couple questions for you. Do you love R&B music? Do you love soul music? Or maybe you like hip-hop music? Do you ever wonder where it all comes from? Don't worry about it. Grand Design has got your back. We got this new documentary called BBBB, which stands for Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges. It's about the history of black music in America and the entire world, and how it all relates to black civil rights. You don't want to miss this. It is coming out next week, July 6th, on Grand Design's YouTube. We're releasing the first 4 episodes, and it's gonna be dope.
Welcome back from the break, guys. Thanks again for joining us on Support Local Film Colorado. My name's Julia. This is Hunter, and we have a very special guest named Trey. Hi, Trey.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's good. You know, you guys, she used to live in LA. Did you know that she
Did
was
I know
in-
that I used to live in
No, I might be looking at you, but I'm not talking to you.
Trying to get my
I get that
sight
feeling
lines.
from you all the time, Julia.
I know, but we're okay. Anyways, you were in LA for 15 years.
15 years.
That's crazy. Why'd you come back?
I don't know. Let me boil it down as quickly as possible. LA ended up having an economic collapse in which there was multiple factors. Believe it or not, 9/11 had an egregious impact on the studios for reasons that are too boring to explain. There was money that needed to be spent in order to increase safety. And then the housing bubble that you all experienced, well, Colorado kind of missed it a little bit, but 2008, yeah, kind of right, hit us earliest and hardest. The technology bubble, where everybody was just throwing money at those online entertainment companies, that bubble burst. And that had a huge negative effect. I mean, you know, Leonardo's like got this online short film festival, and he's looking around. And he's like, well, if Katzenberg and Spielberg can't figure out how to make pop work, like I'm not going to figure this out, you know? So he's pulling the plug. All of these companies that were worth millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, all that investment went away. And then we get to the writer's strike, which absolutely decimated the town for a year and a half.
So explain the writer's strike, because if you were not watching
Sorry, I'm
Jon
laughing.
Stewart,
It's laughing from like, get the bad memories out of my head.
well, just to bring the nightmares back, which
Yes.
is my job around here.
Well done.
Thank you.
You do
Tell
a fantastic job of it, too.
That's when I bring my work home, Julia, just to work on you. But tell us about the writer's strike. Explain exactly what happened in condensed detail.
Okay. Condensed. That's the key word here. So one of the things that happens, and this may be a big surprise for everyone to know, Hollywood is a business, and they're deeply, deeply interested in not only earning money, but keeping their money. And one of the ways they do that is they cheat people. Go on the interwebs and look for how Harry Potter is a lost leader for Warner Brothers. It's hysterical. Their claim is that that Harry Potter never earned any money, and therefore they don't have to pay any of the back end deals to any of the people. Oh no, it's hysterically funny. So one of the easiest marks, unfortunately, in Hollywood to not make good on those deals is writers. Writers, we tend to be the slowest to strike. We are the slowest to stand up for ourselves. Therapy, again, people, therapy. So when we finally get around to striking, we really, really mean it. So we striked. Here's what was happening. DVDs at that point had outpaced theatrical distribution as being the number one profit center. But writers were not getting any residuals on DVDs. Producers were, actors were, directors were. Writers were not, or they were getting like a minuscule amount. So the studio set this up intentionally to rob the people that they were in business with. So we finally get around to being like, hey, that's really not fair, you guys. Like we should get the same residuals, that these other folks are getting. Now, here's the big joke about all of that. We revisit our contracts. The people in the WGA, Writers Guild of America, they revisit their contracts every X number of years, reset the deals because technology changes. The kind of storytelling changes. So this is right around the time that online storytelling was actually being born. 2008. We've only had Netflix for 10 years, you guys. It's crazy to think about. It feels like it's been here forever.
Right.
So part of it was like, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to get paid when we work with online entertainment. DVDs at this point were starting to fall off as being the number one profit earner. So the studios were like, yeah, dude, take that money, man. You take those percentage points, even though they knew that they were not expecting to earn the same amount. So we were really, really late to stand up for ourselves. And we earned no money, very little money. DVDs now, we're just making fun of like burning CDs. Like we laugh at this technology. That technology was basically dead by the time we demanded our share of it. And now in the streaming world, it's even trickier, and this is a long conversation to have, but the way the streaming world, they are not beholden to a lot of the rules that the unions are. Hollywood is a union town, and there's a reason for that, because the studios will try to not pay you. They will try to overwork you. They will try to get lots of things for free. So you need the unions to protect you. Well, the studios or the streamers are living outside of a lot of these contracts. So they're underpaying people. People who are selling things to Netflix are not even making their budgets back, you guys. They're putting in all of this. I can go on for a while, but I'm waiting now for another big strike against the streamers because they took a page out of the studio handbook and they're now mistreating the people who are providing the content for them.
Well, viva la revolucion when it
Yes.
comes. And, oh, Captain, my Captain, when it does happen, I know you'll make everyone here in Denver prepared for it because we'll slowly fix ourselves.
Slowly.
We'll get our stuff together, guys.
I don't know, man. I've been here for 12 years and I haven't seen much sign of it.
I mean, eventually we have to stop falling on our own sword, right?
Yeah.
I mean, intentionally at least. We have to consciously realize, oh, wait, if we keep tripping into this, it will hurt when the pointy end gets into our stomach. But that's why you're here to help us. You are in charge of a group here in Denver that's going to help all the writers
all on
organize.
Me to try to convince writers to make better deals for themselves. Like, apparently I'm the only one talking about this. I have no idea. I don't know who else in Colorado cares about this, but because I'm a Hollywood person, I'm always tracking how the business is changing. I'm always paying attention. So yeah, I work in the public. I teach online classes online because pandemic. Eventually, I'm sure I'll go back into like the physical spaces. But so I like right now I'm teaching a film adaptation course to writers. I've taught writing the TV pilot to just people out in the community, anybody who's interested in this. Advanced screenwriting, I'll be doing a web series class later on in the summer, and I cannot wait for that because the whole idea of that is to write something that can be produced. Because writers, you're going to sit around waiting for forever to have the opportunity to get your work produced. But this way, I'm always telling writers you need to be producers as well. Like you need to create your own jobs, opportunities, kind of like what you guys have done. You've figured out I have a lot to say, and I'm not going to be waiting for anybody to ask me to weigh in. So do it yourself. Right. And that's what web series are. And then at the end of the year, I'm teaching 2 other classes, a limited series, because limited series, who knew? But they're like the hottest thing right now. Who knew? So we'll be talking about that. And then the last one is like a business class that takes all of the, pitching now is one of the ways that things get sold. It's not even like, great, you wrote something, but now we need to be in the room with you and we need to see what kind of a storyteller you are. We need to decide whether or not you're somebody that we feel like we can work with. So teaching those skills, teaching, lookbooks and pitch decks and one sheets and all of these things that we are now responsible for as writers, whereas before there's lots of things we didn't have to do. Also talking about how do you get your work out into the marketplace.
Right.
So that's on Craftwright, which is my private enterprise, my empire.
Feel free to plug it more. Don't be afraid.
CRAFTWRITE, craftwright.com. And then I also run Denver Screenwriters Meetup. It's about 450 Colorado screenwriters. And what I've done with that is every month we either do story breaking, so bring an idea that you're just kicking around. You could use, some brainstorming around. We do table reads where people bring pages and we all read. In fact, we just did that 2 nights ago, and it's always a scream. It's always super helpful because you never really know like how far off the mark you are until you hear your work out loud. And then you're like, I'm going to go fix this. And then I also do like a monthly class that's just like a 2-hour thing. So Denver Screenwriters Meetup, and it's a nominal, say it for me. Did I get it right?
I have a stutter. I don't know.
Let's do
a
it
nominal
together.
fee.
Ready?
1,
2, 3.
Nominal fee to be a part of this. And it's also community. So going back to, how do you keep yourself going? How do you improve your skills? Taking classes, being a part of a community, it inspires everybody. So yeah, and I think I'm kind of, you could go to, there's a couple of other places that are working it, but they're coming from it more from the writer's perspective. I'm coming at it from the Hollywood business perspective. Like I want you guys to understand how the business works, how contracts work, how to get your stuff, because why write something unless it's going to go into the marketplace? And then the other thing I would always hammer on is one of the things that I've noticed in Colorado filmmaking, I hear this all the time. Somebody will be like a director and they'll be like, I don't know, I feel like shooting something, so I'm just going to write something this weekend and we'll shoot it next weekend. And that just drives me absolutely around the bend. There are let me repeat this many, many times. There are so many trained screenwriters in Colorado. For goodness sakes, go find them, go work with them, let them do what they've been training to do so that you as a director or as a producer can just do what you do instead of trying to pretend that you have any business writing something.
It's really about like that mentorship, like letting others critique you and teach you and being a part of that community. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's super fun.
It's cool.
You may say you're a reluctant hero. I think that's the definite archetype.
Have I ever said that? Did I say that?
Well, like Allen Ginsberg said, Denver needs its heroes, and you're definitely among them.
All right, that'd be Ginsberg. No offense, but...
Yeah, well, I went to a community college, Trey, that you taught at.
I taught at. So who's responsible for whose education here?
Yeah. Guess what? I don't say Whitman. I say Whitman, like I grew up in Elbert County, Colorado.
I want to say Whitman.
Whitman.
My mom says Swash.
Oh, I love that.
Whash.
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 I know a woman from Iowa that says Warsh.
Warsh. Oh, she also
Iowa.
says Warsh sometimes. Fire. All right. Well, Trey, this has been amazing having you on our show.
It was very fun. Thanks for inviting me along.
Yeah, we were so happy to have you. And I know everyone who's been listening / watching is wondering, where can they check you out? Like, do you have social media? Do you have a website?
I have a link tree because I understand that is handy.
It is
so
handy.
Linktree / Trey Cartwright. All my crap is on there.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you have a film coming out.
I do. Building 7, which we will be submitting to film festivals, when it's done.
Awesome, awesome. And this is a special episode because we're going to have like this right here is only part of the episode. So we're going to have a bonus episode. We're going to make sure to share that with everyone once it's out. You don't want to miss out on this. Trust me.
Of course, Trey, thank you for being the world's best teacher, the pinnacle of all instruction.
Like more inflated as the interview goes on. I love those.
The universe's greatest professor.
Well done.
Emperor, my emperor.
I like it. I think I'm going to name my production company that.
A+.
A+. We hope this has been an A+ experience for you, and no matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you are in Hollywood, if you are in New York, or if you are screwing around in Fort Collins.
Stop what you're doing and watch locally produced film.
And no matter what, remember to stay creative, Colorado.
Stay creative, Colorado.
All
You
right.
want to redo that?
No.
No? Okay.